Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we're back in War Thunder and today we're going to be looking at the VK4501P, basically the tank that you could get by doing all of the challenges through the Christmas period. For basically getting this tank, you were also able to get the aircraft, I believe the Russian P-63 Premium, but I decided to go for this one because, well, the King Cobra, I already have it. The VK is its own vehicle. Well, kind of anyway. We'll get into that. So at 5.7, it is a premium vehicle. It is right here on the German tree. It has the same BR as the first Tiger, and it's pretty much comparable to the first Tiger in a lot of ways. So what I'll do is, first of all, we'll have this little bit where I'll talk about the tank, talk about its armor, everything like that, and then we'll get into some replays in a bit. So here are the stats of basically the Porsche Tiger. It was a tank which was proposed by, it was basically proposed to be the Tiger H1 in a way, or the Tiger itself. It was a prototype variant which they were basically choosing which one to go for. This Porsche chassis or this other chassis over here. And they decided to go with the Tiger design, which was this one. And it's very, well, let's just take off the camo. That's the camo you get from doing some of the dock tag stuff, so let's just make it look nice. Also, it was quite dark on the screen, mainly because it's nighttime right now, and because of post-FX settings, it looks a bit odd. But anyway, we'll get into it. With the VK4501, it is kind of a tank in its own merits, but it feels like just a tank which has other parts of tanks put together. What I mean by that is the turret itself is the Tiger turret in every sense of the word. As you can see, it's very, very similar. There's not really much difference apart from the cupola on the top and the bit of the bit hanging out of the back. It's not as big, but it's not as wide as well. It's wider on the Tiger H1, but it's larger on the VK because it extends outwards a bit more, as you can see. But in all intents and purposes, they're very much the same turret. And then we look at the chassis. The chassis is the same chassis that the Ferdinand has in-game. This little thing, which I don't have yet, it's basically this chassis. The armor is the same in all regards. I believe there's certain thicknesses which are just slightly different, very slightly different, and obviously the turret itself is different. When we look at the gun is the 88mm KWK-36. It's the gun that we find on the Tiger H1. The Tiger 2P does not have it, but the Tiger E has it. It's basically the first Tiger's gun. I believe it was also present on other variations of certain things, but in-game it's basically these two that we're looking at. So it is just a mishmash of different things. And that's what it kind of feels like. It doesn't really have a place in the game. It's another one of those... it's good at certain things, but it's not as good as other things at them. It is a jack-of-all-trades, master of none. When we look at its armor on the front, you're looking at 103 on the basically upper glacis, and then 261 if you want to hit that flat part. If you want to actually punch through this thing and do damage, all you've got to do is shoot here. The machine gun port, which is the big weak spot. So the big difference between the VK4501P and the Tiger is that machine gun port. A lot of people will tell you on the Tiger to shoot the machine gun port, but it's a hell of a lot of armor. So you should shoot the driver's port instead. It's got more chance of refracting and not actually going through, but if you are struggling to pen this upper glacis, which is flat, then you have to shoot at this machine gun port here. With the VK4501, you also have the machine gun port, which is exactly the same. You have the armor, which I believe has like 3mm more, so it's basically the same. But then you have this gigantic weak spot, which is this machine gun port. I mean, you're talking about 30 to 40mm of armor. It's really not going to do a lot. let's say it goes through, it hits the machine gunner, you have ammo to the side, you have the loader back there, so not really key components, but if you hit the ammo and then the radiator and then the fuel tanks at the back, then yeah, you're going to do a lot of damage. Obviously, if you have the penetration, which you probably will, you want to shoot at the right side of the tank because you're looking at the driver, the aimer or the slash gunner, and then the commander. So just think about, if you're facing one of these things, just see it as a fat tiger. But we'll just focus on the front right now. When we're looking at the front, you don't really want to contend with the turret unless you are very good shot, basically shooting this top right corner, and also this little area here. If you have 120mm of penetration, then yes, you can shoot through. If you are an amazing shot, which I'm guessing not many people are, shoot this little thing here. 90mm, it'll go straight through. It's basically a little viewpoint, and also the machine gun port on this side, but once again, very hard to shoot through. What I would do is I would aim for this, just like you do on the Tiger. If you can't punch through the 100, you can probably, at this level, punch through the 80mm, which is here. You punch through this little area, it hits the driver, which is behind. Hopefully it ricochets, hits these two, and also there's a lovely piece of ammo behind him. And that's basically all you do when it comes to the front. Just see it as a Tiger. Let's say you can't deal with any of this. Well, luckily you have a cupola. The issue with the cupola is unless you're firing something like the 100 and... let's see if I have it lined up. The 122mm of the IS-2, which has... When it hits, it basically splashes really well. This gun here... Basically, you could hit the cupola of this, and it will splash down and kill everything. But most of the time, you're going to be using the T-34-85, the 90mm on the Pershing, and the T-25. So it's not going to splash as much. Maybe the APHE round with the 90mm for the Americans might, but it's much more of a safer bet to shoot this. And the reason why I say that, if I was fighting a Tiger, I would probably shoot here too, but I always try and aim for this corner here, because it's 90mm, just down here. And you can shoot the gunner through there, you can shoot the commander, as you can see. And they're both dead, and then you can basically do what you want, because their gunner has to come back up online, which takes a while. With the VK, you have that little area, but why not go for the easier shot, or up here as well. Depending on what gun you have, obviously you're going to shoot at different places. If you want a safe shot, what you do is you shoot it right here. One of the biggest differences between the Tiger H1 and the VK4501, the reason I am comparing them is because they're the same BR. If we look at the Tiger E, then it is a different kettle of fish, so we're just going to compare these two for now. The big difference is that the Tiger H1 is faster. Now that may not make that much of a big difference to some people, but I'll show you why it makes a big difference for me. So this thing is faster, it has more acceleration, it's nearly 10 kilometers an hour faster in realistic battles, but it has the same amount of armor. So because of that, we have different ways of approaching it. Another thing to take into account is the fact that this Porsche Tiger is a hell of a lot bigger than the Tiger 1. It has a big fat ass that you can basically just grab onto and take for a ride. What you want to do, in my opinion, this is how you take on the VK4501 if you can't punch through its front armor. You shoot it here, in the driver port. You kill the driver, maybe you kill the gunner. If you don't, that's fine. And then you just drive around the side. It's 80mm on both, and around the arse, it's 60. And even behind there, it's still 80 on the turret, so you want to be aiming for here, 30 and 60. It's basically, it's the same way I would tell people to deal with a Tiger. If you do have the penetration, what I would aim for, if you're looking for that beautiful one-shot kill, with something like, once again, the IS-2 or the T-34-85. Let's just see if he has the pen. He should do, but it's going to be pretty close. So with the T-34-85, let's just go back here. He has 139 millimeters of pen at 100 meters, 123 at 500. So with the T-34-85 in mind, let's say you're at 500 meters, punch through this. If you're looking straight ahead, let's say it's coming around a corner, which is where you'll mostly see it. It'll have its turret pointing towards us here. Aim for this plate. 86, and look where you hit. You hit the driver in the head. The aimer's definitely dead. You might hit the ammo. The fuel tank's down there. It's a beautiful shot. Just this corner point right in the middle over here. And with that said, that's how I would deal with it compared to a normal Tiger. The armor on this VK is nothing to write home about. 100 millimeters at 5.7 really won't get you that far. I mean, the fact that the T-34-85 at 5.3 at a range of 1,000 meters can still pen you, and let's see, something like a Pershing. The Pershing's at 6.7, so that may be a bit high for us, but the T-25, which has the same gun as the Pershing, is still talking about 188 millimeters of penetration. That's with the upgraded ammo, of course. Oh, sorry, that's with the APC. What? Wait, what's going on? Right, so that's with the standard ammo. With the APHE, which is the one which actually does damage, or the APC-BC, you can still go through that front plate at 2,000 meters. And then you have APCR. Now, when it comes to other guns and stuff, that means that most of the things you'll be using should be able to punch through this Tiger. But if you're using maybe an anti-air or something like that, so the best thing to aim for is obviously the tracks or the machine gun port. The tracks, as you can see, there's no side skirts or anything like that. It's very easy to hit them. If you are aiming for them, though, don't. If you are in a tank like the T-34-85 or the British Churchill, like this thing, the Mark 7, or the Comet. The Comet's probably the better example. Remember that this is a premium tank, so everybody is going to have a fully modded tank before you start. Something that I've always thought is kind of ridiculous is how FPE and parts are upgrades, but it's something that's in the game, you've got to realize it. So if you are shooting through this area, don't. There is no use. You can hit the ammo. The ammo won't always explode, most of the time it won't. Maybe you can shoot it in the arse, you hit the radiator, that doesn't do anything, and then you have the fuel tank at the bottom, which is very hard to hit. So instead of aiming for this area, my first shot would always go into these engines back here, or into the transmission. Knock it out. Now I'm talking at a completely realistic battle focus here. If it was in arcade, plump a shot straight in the middle of its turret, or plump a shot straight into the ammo. But for unrealistic, I would hit the engine and transmission. The reason for this is because this turret is very slow. It's exactly like the Tiger one. It's okay horizontally, but when it comes to vertically moving it, it definitely struggles. So when we compare the Tiger to the VK is bigger by quite a lot. It has larger weak spots. It has the same gun. Let's just check ammos. It has the 39 and the 39. I believe the Tiger H1 has the same. Yes, it does. So they have the same ammo. The Tiger E has different because I believe it has the APCR rounds, if we just look here. Yes, it does. So that's slightly different. But anyway, there has to be a difference between the two, otherwise there'd be no point in researching it. But the VK has a larger profile, which means it's harder to hide. At the same BR, it has technically the same armor, but it definitely has more weak spots. If you look at the Tiger, let's say it's by the side, right? It's looking at us from here. So just imagine the turret is staring at us. We are on flat ground, and he's just come around a corner. Here, 106 millimeters. so it's harder to pen than the same place on the VK, which has this weird little flat surface, which is very easy to aim for. It also has it on the arse of it, but if you are looking at the arse, just shoot it straight in the side or in the engine. There is not really a lot different between the Tiger H1 and the VK4501, apart from a few little things. Some spaced armor on the Tiger, but not a lot. That little area just between these 2 points, and just the general size of it. So overall, the VK4501P, if you're going from just a technical standpoint, is worse than the Tiger one. If you want to win every battle that you try and play, your best bet is to go in a Tiger over the VK4501P. But you've got to remember this is a premium vehicle, and I think the way that they've done this is perfect. This is the way I want to see premium vehicles. So, with a premium vehicle, you obviously have increased reward, and there should be a risk to that reward. Now, for me personally, that's the fact that I could take the Tiger over the VK. If I want to have an easier game, maybe I get more kills because of it, maybe because this tank is just slightly better, even though it's got the same gun. It does have slightly better armor when it comes to the angling side and everything like that. Maybe I do better in this tank. But with the VK, since it has the ridiculous reward on it, and the research points bonus, maybe that means that even if I only get 1 or 2 kills to the 3 or 4 I would get in the Tiger, I still get more research points. So there's like your risk and reward when it comes to it, and I wish all premium vehicles were like that. A lot of them are, at least the ones that you can win are, but there's quite a few which aren't, which you have to buy. But anyway, with the VK4501, comparing it at 5.7, it is a worse tank. No doubt about it. It is not a pretty tank. I'm glad they didn't go it into. They didn't go with it into the war because, well, it just looks a lot worse. It probably wouldn't be as iconic as the Tiger H1 and the Tiger 2 that we know. But in game, I enjoy driving it just because I like the slow gameplay it gives, and we'll talk about the gameplay and how I actually drive it when we get into it. Which will happen about now. So I'll see you then.